So I think the way we should do this is just go through top guys at each position and just kind of like what they do well, what they could maybe improve on, or maybe where they fit in the NFL or something like that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Do you want to take us away?
Yeah, I could definitely take you away. And so I think we should start with the most important position in football, quarterback. And I feel like there's only one obvious answer here as to who the best is, and it's Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. It's very hard to look at this draft class and not just automatically say that Mendoza is the best prospect at quarterback here. Maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling that like Dante Moore could have, but he for sure has the highest floor. Just he does such a great job with throwing in, reading the play, anticipating pressure. He's fast enough. I think Kirk Herbstreit described him as like giraffe, right? So I just think he's the most NFL ready quarterback in this class. Maybe not the highest ceiling, but I think he's the number one pick because he can go in and really contribute right away.
I'd 100% agree with that. Looking at Indiana's season, last year they had Curtis Rourke, and then he stepped into a big role this year. Indiana has been on a upward slope here these last couple of years, and he really took in a spot. And transferring from Cal and to Big Ten team was a big change, I feel. And I agree with you. Definitely top prospect. Props to Dante Moore. I just think he's the better fit.
I guess I can take it and just continue down the line, I guess. For this running back, I'll continue to just say I think Jeremiah Love is by far the best running back prospect in this class. I don't think I've even heard other people say there's any other potential first round running backs because it's just him.
I'd agree with that. It's not really a big running back class this season. He's only standout that I can recognize and think of.
He's fast. He's fast. He's got the good blend of vision, and he reminds me of like Le'Veon Bell when Le'Veon Bell was in college, where he's patient, waits for his blocks to set up, and then he just goes. There's so many examples of these long runs he has where he kind of waits for one block to set up and then he's gone. So I think he's probably a late first round guy because most running backs are unless they're generational. So I think he's fitting with like, the Texans or something like that. But I think he's by far and away RB1 in this class.
100%. Do you want to continue with receiver?
Sure. So this one's actually there's 1A and 1B, but I'm gonna give you my, I guess, who I kind of think so hat takes you as a little bit. So I'm gonna give it to Carnell Tate from Ohio State. Now a lot of people are also gonna say that Jordan Tyson from Arizona State is the wide receiver one, but I just think Carnell Tate he's like 6'3", 215, and he does not move like that at all. He moves like he's 5'9", 180. He can fly, he can turn, he can cut, he can do all these things you want a wide receiver one to do. And he did it at the highest level, and he played in the Big Ten. So, and he also was playing, I guess, across from Jeremiah Smith. So just really ironing, sharpening. He got to go up against corners number one and number two this year. So he just is such a good frame, and he's fast, and I think he has all the tools that you want, and he's got good hands. So I don't really see, the thing with Jordan Tyson is he played with a worse quarterback, but he did play against worse competition. So I'll listen to a an argument for either one, but in my opinion, I do think that Carnell Tate is the wide receiver one in this class.
I feel like there's a lot of pretty good to really good receivers in this draft,
Hmm.
and he's just on the top there. So I'm gonna start with tight ends now. I think we got to go Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon.
Yep.
51 receptions for 560 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's a pretty high haul for a tight end, I feel, especially in college. I feel like most teams don't really implement much of a tight end, and
No.
he's produced. Got a good
Yeah.
quarterback in Dante Moore as well to help him out.
He's the only tight end I have graded going in the first round. I have him going to the Broncos at pick 31 right now, but I don't see any other tight end going in the first round.
I think that's a great take. So I'm gonna do top one at each position of offensive line. So I'm gonna start out on the edge. I think the fair take, I feel like everyone knows it's gonna be Francis Mauigoa from Miami. Watching that semifinal game against Ole Miss, he was all over Ole Miss's D line and his pass sets were really good, I thought. And he didn't let anything around the edge. He didn't let anything inside. It was all over the place and no one could get around him.
I think he does a good job at anchoring, and that he's got a big leg kick, which is always what you want, obviously. The one thing that the NFL scouts are going to knock him on is his arm length. because he has baby arms,
I'd have to agree with that.
which means
Yeah.
he's 1 inch short of being the average. But if you're good enough, it's not going to affect you. So I think you're right with having him number one.
For guards, I think we got to go with Oliva Vega, from Penn State. He's great pass protector. Drew Aller had plenty of time, I felt, in most situations this season. His run block is pretty well too. Any run game situation, you need strong guards, and I feel like he was able to move some guys around and get that separation needed for those big holes.
And I'm with you. I think he's also guard, no first guard, but it is also a really weak guard class, I think. I do have him in the first round though. I do think he's the best. I think you like you said he's a better pass blocker than he's a run blocker. He's just not quite the athlete I think that a lot of people want him to be, but his pass block, I mean, he's probably one of the better pass blocking linemen in this class.
For centers, I feel like it can go anyway. This center class is really weak as well, I feel. But I'm gonna have to take Pat Coogan, Indiana. Come on, he's the Rose Bowl MVP. That's the first time since 1944 that that has happened.
Wow.
And he went from one powerhouse to another. He was at Notre Dame for a couple of years, and then he transferred to Indiana. And I mean, looks at some of his tape in high school, he was an absolute mauler. Like he was getting pancake after pancake, and I feel like it very much transferred over to college. Like watch an Indiana game, you see like on the scrimmages moving forward, it rarely goes back for Indiana.
Yeah,
Do you have
just
any
winning it.
thoughts on that?
I just think that winning the Rose Bowl MVP as an offensive lineman is so insanely hard to do, and getting that recognition kind of how just like for how big of a leader you are, for that offensive line room, and just how good of a player you actually are.
I 100% agree with that. I'm time since 1944. That's a long-standing record broken.
Over 80 years.
That's gonna wrap it up for offensive side of the ball. I think we'll move over to defense now. Start out with edge rusher. I think really got to take Ruben Bain here. He's just absolute like causer. Like watching the semifinal game, also against Ole Miss. Just disrupted everything. Run, pass, like he was all over the place. At his season stats, he had 8.5 sacks. I mean, for one to get that many in a college season, I feel is quite impressive. As well as like 25 solo tackles. I mean, he's an edge, so they don't. I feel like most teams were running it away from his side too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the guy across from him, Mesidor, got kind of benefited from Ruben Bain out on that other edge because he had like the best of his career too. But that's what happens when you're maybe even just the best defensive player in this class across from you. So yeah, I think Ruben Bain's an absolute monster. It's hard to watch a game that he plays in and not notice him. He's kind of a game wrecker. And again, the one thing that scouts are going to harp on is that he has such small arms. But when you're producing, 8.5 sacks, like, does that really matter? Like, it shouldn't. I mean, good, you're just good. So, I mean, I think he's the best defensive player in this class. And by far, I mean, not by far, but I do think he's also the best edge.
Yeah. For defensive tackle, I think I'm gonna go with Peter Woods from Clemson here. I
Mhm.
mean, you look at stats, it's not that much, but I feel like going along with the O-line, I think it's a bit of a weaker class for like defensive tackles. Like he was getting some gaps and force stuff to the outside for Clemson's defense, and I think that kind of puts him above because I feel like being a body in a gap is most important when you're playing D line.
Yeah, and you can't expect a bunch of production from a D tackle. That's just not really fair because yeah, their job is normally to take up a gap or two and free up, linebackers. So it you usually don't see a bunch of production from a D tackle, but I think he's just the best D tackle in this class. He's explosive. He played, I mean, that's really disappointing, but he was one of the bright spots on it. He was a 5-star recruit, I think. So I mean, he's got potential. His high school tape's insane. Just and I have him as rated as a top 10 pick. I just think he really is that good.
It's fair. And then for my final take on, I'm gonna go with Arvell Reese, Ohio State, as my top linebacker in this class.
Hmm.
I mean, he's got size. He's utilized as both an edge and an outside backer for Ohio State. Playing in a Big Ten and being able to do both those hard jobs, I think, is pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. There's always that debate of like, does he as in the NFL as an off-ball linebacker or an edge? I think we saw that same thing with Jalen Walker last year from Georgia, but I do think Orville Reese does project more as a linebacker, just because I just don't think he has the run stopping ability that like Ruben Bain does, for example. And I do think that, I mean, he's my second best defensive player. That's how I have him rated as, because he's really explosive. He's fun. He can get off blocks. Just he's a much better pass rusher than he is a run stopper. And I just think you want his speed in space instead of kind of being utilized.
Yeah, 100% agree. Do you take it away with our defensive backs here?
Yeah, so for corners, my top corner is Mansour Delane from LSU. He obviously transferred in from Tulane last year, but he's great size, and he allowed like the third passer rating in all of college football, and he has like the highest rating or something like that. He's just an absolute monster. You don't want to throw at him. I mean, LSU has kind of been past, so not recently, but I mean they're pretty good corners, and I think he keeps it up because he's the best corner in this class, I think. I think he has a physicality. I think he can be that true. You can kind of send him wide. I don't know if he can play slot. He played a couple, like most of his snaps are wide. I think he can play in the slot. I just, I would prefer him out wide. I just think otherwise you don't draft a first round slot corner. So I think he should play outside the boundary. I think he can do it. And I think the way that he plays football is he plays smart. He's not always going for that pick. He, he's smart. He can match up well. He's got good fluid hips and good, he can really read those routes too.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, in the SEC as well, like most SEC aren't like top tier deep. I mean, they're a great conference, but I feel like their defenses aren't as great as like a Big Ten, and I think like that kind of shows game scores because most of them are like all high scoring. But like I feel like him being a key piece for LSU's defense there, it's kind of a deal.
And to finish it off, my best safety actually does come from a Big Ten, Caleb Downs. I think he really is. I have him rated as the third best defensive player in this class behind Ruben Bain and Arvo Reese because he's kind of a slot. He can play deep safety. He can play in the box. He can play linebacker. He's so smart, and he's actually willing to tackle, which you don't see from a lot of safeties now, I think.
Yeah.